Hi everyone, welcome back to Psych-Lens. Today we're diving into a topic that I think a lot of men don't hear nearly enough. And it's something that could honestly shift the way you view yourself and the way you move through the world. Yes, really. So many guys, especially the humble, self-aware, grounded ones, tend to undervalue themselves. You might think you're average looking, invisible to women, or just not someone who stands out in a crowd. But what I want to share with you, a woman's perspective, because there are so many subtle, powerful signs that show a man is attractive, and a lot of those signs get completely overlooked or misinterpreted. Clear signs that you're much more attractive than you realize. And I'll be sharing insights from a woman's lens so that you can get a more honest take on what women actually notice and appreciate. So if you've ever second-guessed your appearance or questioned why you don't get the reaction you expect, this video is for you. Let's jump into it. Sign number 1, you make people a little bit nervous. This one might catch you off guard, but it's one of the most interesting and telling signs that you're more attractive than you realize. Or maybe you were talking to a woman and she started playing with her hair, fidgeting or stumbling over her words. You might have thought she was just shy or awkward. But here's the real deal. Those are often nervous reactions to someone they find attractive. Attractive men, especially those who carry themselves with confidence, calm energy, or mystery, can make people around them a little off balance in a good way. It's not necessarily intimidation in a negative sense. It's more that your presence disrupts someone's normal comfort zone. You create a shift in the energy, and people, especially women, feel it. It's unconscious. It's subtle, but it's real. They stay totally cool and casual. But when a guy shows up with that quiet self-assurance, well-dressed, and intentional in how he speaks or carries himself, we start to adjust our own behavior without even realizing it. That topic is this. You might be way more attractive than you give yourself credit for. Today is a new perspective. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7. Wondered why certain people act a certain way around you. Have you ever walked into a room and noticed someone suddenly get quiet? A lot of women don't get nervous around guys they're not into. So if you've ever thought, why do people act a little differently around me? Or, why does she seem so flustered all of a sudden? You might be seeing one of the strongest signs that you're giving off attractive energy. Just keep in mind, it's all about context. Confidence, poise, and authenticity attract. Overbearing or performative confidence, that repels. So it's important to understand the distinction. Sign number 2, you get complimented on the small stuff, and often. Let me make something super clear here. And I'm speaking on behalf of so many women, we don't hand out compliments just to be nice. When we say things like, you smell really good, or I love your voice, or you're so calming to be around, that's not small talk. Those are major compliments, even if they seem subtle on the surface. Why? Because those types of compliments usually come from a place of genuine attraction. We're noticing things about you that we like, and we're trying to express that interest without being too obvious. Complimenting your cologne, your laugh, your vibe, those are all our ways of saying, hey, I see you. I feel something around you. And here's something else to think about. If you've ever had different women compliment the same thing about you, like your voice or the way you dress, pay attention. That means there's something about you that's consistently attractive across the board. Here's a little pro tip for all the guys watching. Don't underestimate the small things. A well-fitted shirt, a clean haircut, great smelling cologne, the way you listen, the way you laugh. All of these are huge to us. You don't need to look like a model to be attractive. You just need to show up as a man who takes care of himself and moves through the world with intention. And yes, if a woman compliments your shoes, you're doing something very right. Women notice shoes. It's one of the first things many of us look at. And it tells us a lot about your attention to detail. If you want an easy style upgrade this summer, start with footwear. Trust me, it makes a bigger impact than you realize. Sign number 3. Strangers ask you for help or directions. This one might seem a little random, but stick with me. It's actually a huge clue about how you're perceived. If people in public, men, women, elderly folks, total strangers, regularly ask you for directions, help, or advice, it usually means you're giving off an energy that's calm, approachable, and trustworthy. And while that may not sound flashy or hot, but let me tell you from a woman's perspective, that is seriously attractive. Attractive isn't just about sharp jawlines or six-pack abs. It's about how you make people feel. When you walk into a room, do people relax? Do they instinctively trust you? Do you seem like someone who has his life together? That's what I mean by magnetic energy, and it's one of the most overlooked forms of attraction. Women are drawn to men who feel solid, men who are present. We're not as interested in the loudest guy in the room or the one constantly trying to impress everyone. That energy usually reads as insecure. But a man who's grounded? Who listens? Who carries himself like he doesn't need attention but still gets it? That's rare, and it's magnetic. So if you're the kind of guy that strangers talk to easily or people feel safe around, realize that that's not just a personality trait, it's part of your attractiveness. We talked about how people's nervousness around you, consistent compliments, and the way strangers approach. You can all be powerful indicators of your quiet attractiveness, especially from a woman's perspective. Now let's keep the momentum going because these next few signs are ones most men completely overlook. But they're deeply meaningful. And again, I'm giving it to you straight from a woman's perspective, so you can start seeing yourself through a clearer, more accurate lens. Let's jump right into the next sign. Sign number 4. Women assume that you're taken. This one is such an interesting psychological cue, and it's something a lot of men misunderstand or even get frustrated by. If you've ever had a woman seem surprised when she finds out you're single, or she just assumes that you're already in a relationship, that's not bad news. It's actually a huge compliment. Here's why. Women assume a guy is taken when he gives off the kind of energy that women are already looking for. That means you're probably confident, emotionally stable, not desperate for attention, and you carry yourself with assurance. You seem secure. You're not chasing, you're not overly reactive, you're just present. That's boyfriend or husband material, and we pick up on it instinctively. And here's the ironic twist. The more available a guy seems, the less attractive he often becomes. It sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. If you're constantly pushing to impress or prove yourself, it can come off as needy or even desperate. But when you're calm, composed, and not trying to win anyone over, that's when women start thinking he must be taken. Because in their minds, a guy like that surely has someone. So yes, it might actually work against you in terms of women making the first move. But it's still a clear indicator that you're giving off the kind of energy that's considered attractive, mature, and desirable. Just remember, sometimes the reason a woman doesn't pursue you is because she thinks someone already has you. Sign number 5, people remember you easily. Here's another powerful one. Have you ever met someone once? Maybe had just a short conversation, and then weeks or even months later, they remember your name, your face, or something you said? That's not by accident. That's presence. And presence is one of the strongest signs of true attractiveness. Attractive people tend to leave an impression, even when they're not trying to. And I don't mean in a loud, flashy way. I'm talking about quiet charisma. The kind that sticks with people after you've left the room. From a woman's perspective, a memorable man is someone who brought value to the interaction. Maybe you made her laugh when no one else did. Maybe you truly listened when others were just waiting for their turn to speak. Maybe you made her feel seen, even if the moment was brief. That kind of presence is rare, and it's powerful. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be remembered. In fact, it's often the man who says less, but says it intentionally, who stands out the most. We notice the guy who listens, the guy who makes eye contact, the guy who's calm in chaos. That man becomes memorable not just for what he says, but for how he made us feel. So if you've ever been remembered when you didn't expect it, take note. That is one of the clearest signs that something about you is resonating on a deeper level. Sign number 6. You don't get chased, but you get chosen. This one is subtle, but so important to understand. It flips a common misconception on its head. A lot of guys believe that attractive men get chased. But from a woman's perspective, that's not usually how it works. The most attractive men are rarely chased in the obvious way. Instead, women find strategic ways to be near them, to interact, to be noticed. If a woman compliments your shirt, asks you for help with something small, starts conversations randomly, or just always seems to be around, she's positioning herself for you to notice her. And that's what I mean when I say you're chosen. Not chased, but chosen. We might sit near you. We might laugh a little louder at your jokes. We might linger after a group conversation just to talk to you. It's subtle, but it's intentional. Women will find reasons to start conversations, ask your opinion, or initiate contact. But we won't always be super obvious about it. We're waiting for you to see us and ideally take the lead. So if you're that guy that women seem to interact with by chance, more than once, trust me, it's probably not a coincidence. We're watching, we're observing, and if we're initiating those little moments with you, that means something. What's even more telling is this. If you're not actively chasing, but women keep showing up in your orbit, that's a strong sign that you're radiating something valuable, something magnetic. We feel it, even if you don't yet. What these signs all have in common. Let's pause for a moment and connect the dots, because there's a common thread running through all of these signs, and it's not about looks alone. These signs aren't just about having a great jawline or stylish clothes. They're about your energy, your mindset, the way you make people feel around you. It's the way you carry yourself. Attractive men have a certain gravity. They don't chase attention, but they naturally draw it in. They don't talk over everyone, but when they speak, people listen. They aren't desperate to prove themselves because they already know who they are. And that self-awareness, that groundedness is what sets them apart. You may not even realize the effect you're having on others, especially if you're humble or hard on yourself. But trust me, women are noticing you in ways that go far beyond surface-level traits. Your calmness, your confidence, your leadership, your consistency, those are what make a man truly attractive in a lasting way. If you've made it this far, you're already starting to see the truth. Attraction isn't just about flashy looks or loud personalities. It's about how you show up, how you carry yourself, and how you make others feel. So far, we've talked about how nervous body language from others, unexpected compliments, being approached by strangers, and the way women position themselves around you all signal that you're more desirable than you may realize. Now we're going even deeper. Let's get into it. Sign number 7. You're hard on yourself, but other people look up to you. This one might feel personal. And honestly, that's a good thing. A lot of the most grounded, respectful, and genuinely attractive men I've met or observed share something in common. They're constantly working on themselves. They question themselves. They're aware of their flaws. They're not arrogant or showy, and because of that, they often underestimate just how impactful they really are. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're the guy who never feels like he's doing enough, who's always trying to improve, who thinks that no one notices what you bring to the table. But meanwhile, other people do notice. Maybe your coworkers come to you when they need advice. Maybe your friends value your opinion more than they say out loud. Maybe women ask for your perspective, not because they're confused, but because they respect your thoughtfulness. That's not random. That's presence. That's leadership. And yes, that's a very attractive quality.
Here's something a lot of men don't realize. Being admired doesn't always look like applause. Sometimes it looks like quiet trust, like people counting on you, looking to you for guidance, wanting to be in your orbit, wanting to hear what you think. From a woman's perspective, this kind of strength, quiet confidence, emotional stability, inner leadership, is so much more attractive than loud bravado or shallow charm. This is the kind of man we respect. This is the kind of man we want to build with, not just flirt with. So if you often find yourself being the one people go to, even though you feel like you're not doing anything special, realize that this might be one of the clearest indicators that you carry a strength that others admire, even if you don't see it yet. The hidden confidence gap. Let's pause here for a moment and talk about something I like to call the hidden confidence gap, because I see it all the time, especially in men who are actually very attractive but don't feel that way. What happens is this. You compare yourself to some unrealistic ideal. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's something from your past, and you fall short. So you assume that others see you the same way you see yourself. But they don't. Women aren't always looking for the guy with the perfect hairline, the biggest muscles, or the flashiest lifestyle. We're looking for something real. A man who has depth, who listens, who doesn't need to dominate every conversation, who brings calm to chaos, who has substance. Unfortunately, many men who fit that description have no idea how attractive they actually are, because they're caught in a loop of self-doubt or perfectionism. Here's what I want to say clearly. You don't need to feel attractive to be attractive. Read that again. You don't need to feel attractive to be attractive. Sometimes the people who carry the most magnetic energy are the ones who don't see it, because they're too focused on being better. And that humility, that quiet effort, that matters. You don't need validation from every person in the room. You just need to own your value. Not in a cocky way, but in a grounded, self-respecting way. The real traits women are drawn to. Let's go deeper into what women really notice, because if you're still under the impression that attraction is all about looks, I promise you it's not. Here are just a few things that women notice, often silently, and find deeply attractive. Self-discipline. If you have goals and you stick to them, if you show up for yourself consistently, we notice. That's hot.
Emotional intelligence. If you can stay calm under pressure, hold space for someone, or express your feelings with clarity, that sets you apart. Integrity. If you follow through on what you say, if your actions match your words, you're rare. And rare is attractive. Good boundaries. If you know when to say no, if you don't let others walk over you, if you value your own time, that's powerful. Quiet confidence. If you don't need to boast, but you know who you are and walk through life with grounded assurance. Yes, we absolutely see that. And here's the twist. Most of these traits don't come with applause. They don't get you likes, but they earn you something better. Respect. Real connection. Long-term attraction. The kind that lasts. What you might not be seeing about yourself. By now you might be thinking, okay, maybe I do check a couple of those boxes, but it still doesn't feel like I'm that guy. And that's exactly why I'm making this video, because the men who need to hear this most are often the ones who are already doing the work. You're showing up. You're leading with integrity. You're quietly making people feel safe, respected, and valued. and you don't even realize the ripple effect you're creating. And women notice, even if they don't always say it out loud, they notice. We're drawn to consistency, groundedness, and emotional safety. If you provide those things, even unintentionally, you are already standing out in the best way. So start believing it. Not in an arrogant way, but in a solid, internal kind of way. That's the confidence that changes how you carry yourself. That's the confidence that amplifies your attractiveness without you needing to say a word. Now, in this last part, we're going to pull it all together and go beyond just recognizing your attractiveness. Because the truth is, once you start seeing yourself more clearly, your confidence becomes something you embody, not perform. This is where the real shift happens. Turning insight into inner confidence. Let's begin here. You now know that many of the signs of attractiveness are quiet. They don't scream. They're not loud or flashy. And that's part of what makes them powerful. But here's the next step. You have to believe it. Not in an arrogant, inflated way, but in a grounded, self-affirming way. Because when you finally realize, oh, people do actually notice me, or maybe I have more presence than I thought, you stop shrinking. You stop second-guessing. You stop apologizing for existing. Confidence doesn't mean thinking you're better than anyone else. It means you no longer question whether or not you belong in the room. Attractive men often radiate this kind of earned confidence. They're not trying to be seen, they already see themselves. And that shifts how people respond to them instantly. So if you've noticed people treating you differently, giving you compliments, or naturally wanting to be around you, lean into it. Own it. Don't dismiss it. Let it reinforce what's already true. You're bringing something valuable to the table, whether you know it or not. How to lean into your natural attractiveness without trying too hard. Now let's talk about what you can do with this awareness. Here are a few practical, low-effort ways to lean into your natural attractiveness without turning into someone you're not. 1. Carry yourself with intentionality. Your posture, your pace, your presence. Walk like you've got somewhere to be, even if it's just down the block. Make eye contact, not in a creepy way, but in a grounded, friendly way. Stand tall, uncross your arms. Own your space without shrinking into it. That alone can double your presence. 2. Dress like you respect yourself. You don't need to follow every fashion trend, but wear clothes that fit well and show care. Even a simple white tee and good jeans look great when they fit right. Keep your shoes clean. Wear a subtle but good-smelling cologne. When you take pride in your appearance, women see that as self-respect, not vanity. 3. Speak less, say more. There's a certain power in men who don't overtalk. You don't need to fill every silence. Sometimes just being the guy who listens more than he speaks, but actually says something thoughtful when he does, is the most attractive move in the room. It signals confidence, restraint, and presence. 4. Start noticing how people respond to you. This is a big one. If someone leans in when you speak, touches their hair, gives you a compliment, or even seems to linger a little longer than necessary, that's feedback. Take it. You don't need to decode everything, but stop brushing it off as coincidence. People's behavior around you is data. Learn from it. 5. Practice gratitude toward yourself. Attractive people tend to have one underrated thing in common. They're grateful to be themselves. They appreciate who they are, even when they're still growing. Take time to reflect on what's great about you, not just what needs fixing. Because when you appreciate yourself, it shows. And people can feel it. Let's talk about self-worth versus ego. Now, I want to make an important distinction here. Self-worth is not the same as ego. Ego says, I'm better than everyone else. Self-worth says, I don't need to compare myself to anyone. And guess what? That second one is way more attractive. A man who knows his worth isn't loud about it. He doesn't need to prove anything. He just is. He's calm, clear, kind. And from a woman's perspective, that's the kind of man who feels safe. Emotionally, mentally, physically. That's the kind of man women choose. So if you've ever felt pressured to be alpha or put on a show, let me tell you, women can see through that. And more importantly, you don't need it. You just need to walk in alignment with who you really are. My final thoughts. It's time you start seeing what we see. You might have gone your whole life thinking you're just average, that you're overlooked or invisible or just not someone people pay attention to. But hopefully, through this video series, you've started to understand something deeper. You have more presence, value, and attractiveness than you've been giving yourself credit for. Not because of ego, not because of wishful thinking, but because of the way people respond to you. We, as women, notice so much more than you think. Your energy, your vibe, the way you speak, listen, walk, carry yourself, smell, show up. It all matters, and it all adds up. You don't need to be loud to be seen. You don't need to be perfect to be attractive. You just need to stop underestimating your own impact. So from my heart to yours, start treating yourself like the man that women already see in you. Not a show-off, not a people pleaser, but a grounded, magnetic, respectable man. The kind of man who turns heads without trying. Before you go, if this video resonated with you, even just a little, please do me a favor. Give this a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share it with a friend who needs this message. And leave a comment below. Have you experienced any of these signs in your life without realizing what they meant? Let's create a space where men can feel seen, supported, and respected. Let's keep encouraging each other, being kind, lifting each other up, and, most importantly, seeing ourselves and others clearly. Thank you so much for watching and spending time with On Psych Lens. You are valued. You are impactful. You are attractive exactly as you are. And I'll see you next time.